What's up, everybody? It's your favorite, I may have bitten off more than I can choose, favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Fanstoys Terminus Giganticus. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to Hung from 215 Toys. That dude has been nothing but good to me, nothing but a stand-up dude, and he even offered to drive this down to me so that I could get it faster, but then he realized that, you know, I still wouldn't have been anywhere near close to the first one with it, so it just ultimately wasn't worth the effort. But I still have it now. We're still gonna look at it. We're gonna have to, you know, it's a big mamma jamma. Let me measure it. So from tip to tip, so to speak, it's about 43 inches. I don't know how many centimeters that is, but there's a thing called Google for those that aren't familiar. You can feel free to look that up on your free time. So it takes up a lot of space. It's too big for my review table. It's actually too big for the table next to my review table. So it has to go like kind of on my like proper table. And a cool one it is. So we're gonna do some size comparisons and stuff. I'm gonna take you around handheld so you can kind of see all of it. And then we're gonna kind of break down the pieces individually and talk about them. We just have to adapt and overcome. It's a large unit to try to get your kind of mind around all of it, so to speak. So we're gonna work our way through it and see how it works out. Hopefully something that's slightly enjoyable to watch and at least entertaining, if not informative. Let's get some size comparisons going. There's Grinder. There's BumbleBee. So hopefully that will paint enough of a picture of extremes in terms of how big this unit is. Oh, we almost forgot. There's Tiger Tracks. Hopefully that gives you some idea. Now we're going to take it off of the tripod, we're going to get handheld, we're going to take a closer look. So I'm pretty sure everybody kind of knows what's going on with this thing now. I know there's a number of reviews out there and stuff. But I will tell you one thing about this that I found interesting, is there was a ton of nostalgic feeling that I got while looking at this, or while opening it, while getting it out of the box. An absolute ton. Like the styrofoam, putting it together. I remember having Omega Supreme as a kid and my dad actually driving himself nuts and wanting to throw a hammer through the wall trying to figure out how it all went together. And then, you know, it was a cool toy to have for your collection, but it wasn't really a practical toy. It just didn't do a whole lot. You know, the walking mechanism, mine, I don't think ever worked properly. So it is, I don't know. I talk about this every now and then, right? I talk about that feeling of that ultimate nostalgia that you get from this stuff. Where, like, when you were a kid, you imagined that this toy would be a certain way, you know? And then you got it, and it wasn't quite what you wanted it to be. You know, your imagination was almost greater than what it was. This feels like the toy that I wanted when I was a kid. This feels like when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, opening up that box, this is what I expected it to be inside. And that's not to say that it's perfect. It's not. And we're going to talk about my issues with this along the way. But it is something worth noting. One other thing I want to mention before we move on, I just really want to be able to give you guys a bit of a showcase of it, is that it came, so like the tank came in tank mode, and then the arms, like these bits here, came in arm mode, and then this one came in alt mode, but the feet and the legs came in robot mode, so I didn't know which way to go, and I figured we just start in alt mode and work our way through to robot mode, and hopefully that will be good enough. You know, I like to do it how the stuff is packaged so that it can help you transform it once you get it, but I'm just not sure how that all is ultimately going to sort out. So we're just going to do it this way and hope that it is an acceptable approach. As far as the rocket goes, there's a number of interesting things about it. We're going to talk about it as we break it down. So you have the top piece that comes off, obviously, and this has an LED in it. You just turn this, open it up. There's a switch here, turns it on, and then you put it back in and turn it clockwise, and you get the light up feature. Now, the thing about this is I think that this is, I know that this is intended for robot mode, but I like it better in robot mode collapsed and in rocket mode extended. you know, but it's totally your preference. Like, I just prefer that for the robot mode. That's your call. In order to transform it fully, and these clips are going to come undone the entire review, so just get used to that. This opens up, the bicep comes out, and then this closes up, see? And then you can lock it back in place, or you can have it extended, whatever you want to do with that. For the bottom piece, it has the loading ramp. This can slide in, this folds in, that closes up, and then you have it put together. It has an LED in it as well, and in order to access that, you just open it up, and there's a switch there down at the bottom, and then you just turn it off. Once again, pull the bicep out, close it up, good to go. And then we have kind of the rocket launcher thing, and this is cool enough. It's made up of the feet and the backpack. You know, no real issues. I do like that the ratchets for the arms, like into the cannons or whatever, like that they seem like, you know, smoke would come down from these things in my head. And maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Oh, am I an astronaut? Relax. But I just don't know what, you know, in my head, that's what it reminds me of. Like, you know, if it were to launch, like giant smoke plumes would come down from there. And this is made up of 3 pieces. Like I said, I will show you how to separate that right now. We'll talk about the detailings when we get to the robot, but there is like little paint accents. It doesn't have a finish. I know I just not slammed, but I know I just criticized Sea Spray for not having a finish. This one, you know, I would have preferred the finish. I would have paid the extra money for the finish, to be honest with you. But it doesn't bother me. We'll talk about why when we get to robot mode ultimately. But all in all, it is at least visually interesting. There's enough things kind of going on to draw it to your attention. You just take this piece off. It plugs into both of those, and we'll talk about that top piece later. And then you really just flip these around, flip this up, and I don't know how these feet exactly go. It's hard to stay oriented. I will remember when I go to put it together. Open this up, and then fold the foot out, the heel rather, and then you have one foot, and this has got to go in the front. So it's going to be something like that. On this side, same thing. Open these up on the sides and then fold this in, and then in order to keep yourself oriented left and right, use your ankle rockers. So that's going to be on that side, and of course this one's going to be on the other side, but just to show you that you can utilize them both. It's just a quick, easy way to keep yourself oriented. This piece you just open up here. These pieces have a tendency to pop off. I don't exactly know why. Rotate this out, and then that should get to a point where you can get the clearance to use this hinge to fold it up. And then you can plug this back in if yours comes off like mine does. Let me do it again. There we go. Fold out, and then this will lock on. And I think that's pretty much it for that. You get 2 of these. These make up the curvature of the track. They also become as wings, and they plug into the base just by interlocking these sections, obviously, into like the upper ramps. And then it just folds over once again on these double hinges that you do have to be a little bit mindful of and collapse. And that's all there is to that. This is one of the more complicated sequences in terms of getting it from how it comes packaged into robot mode, but not impossible. It's just these hinges and stuff that can kind of eat you up. So this exposes this. You have to get this inside bit out and this outside bit in. In order to do that, just angle it the best you can. Let me get this. There. And then once you got that out, you can fold this whole bit around. There's a little bit of a clearance issue between here and here, but it does make for a very clean finished product. So there, and like, you know, I just had it angled wrong, no problem. Fold this around, and that makes up the inside of the leg, and this makes up the upper thigh. And I'll probably have to sort that out later, and then close this up. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll collapse it in a minute. So we're going to open this up. We're going to loosen this by taking the tension off of these 2 pieces that have to meet. And then we're going to angle this so that we can get this piece through the center. And it's just a little bit challenging to do with this camera in front of me, you know? Rotate that around. Fold in the track on the back side. As you bring this around, close that up. All right, so before we collapse it, raise these pegs up here and here. There's a little indentation on the side of the leg. You should be able to spot it as to where to line up the ones that don't sit next to those two pillars. All right, so look, getting this oriented is the hardest part of this transformation. From here, it's home free. So I'm just going to show you the proper orientation for it. That will help you, I think, as a point of reference more than anything else, watching me fiddle with it with these sausages. So here is this joint, right? And this is on the back of the leg, so the track is here. And it's kind of facing out at a 45-degree angle from center towards the back. And then the other piece is kind of coming straight up and down with the silver piece aimed towards the back. On the other side, this one is facing 90 degrees forward, and then this other silver piece is sitting perpendicular on top of it. And that's the best way I can try to tell you how to do it. It's a pain, and some of these moving pieces here have the Fanstoys squeak, so they're really tight, like a tiger. So we're gonna put this in here, and we're gonna aim this metal bar down into the groove on the opposite side, and then we're going to sandwich this together and kind of pray. And now we're going to sandwich it. Come on, girl. There it is. And once you get the bottom part, we can worry about the top afterwards. I gotta get this piece. There you go. Money. And it's just challenging. And there's a couple of things that are kind of working against you. And there you go. And you don't even really have to close this top part up yet, because you're gonna need this later on for when we combine it. But just for the sake of it, there you have it. We'll do it again. I know it's a little repetitive. So you can fold this piece in, even though you might have to work it. Break the tension, push this piece out, and then you need to angle this through this open cavity, pushing this one around to the back and collapsing it like that. And then we'll work this thigh out in a minute, because this eats me up. But I think it's like this. All right, so for the other side, break the tension. You can push this piece out on the opposite side. Break the tension here. What am I doing wrong? See, there is a Fanstoys squeak on one of those moving pieces inside of that where all those hinges are, and it couldn't be at a worse place, because it does add to the frustration level of trying to get everything to move smoothly. Close that around, and then this piece is going to come down. You hear it? To the back. All right. This ain't wrong. All right, so I'll get it cleaned up and then we'll add the foot. So on this leg, we're gonna raise these up again, follow the indentations on this side, the columns on that side. Same over here, indentation at the back, column at the front. For these, make sure that this one is straight, and then that this front of the silver is facing you. For the other one, on the inside, the silver is facing straight, and then the silver piece here is facing up, and that should line everything up. It's very frustrating because there's a lot of moving pieces and there's a very tight swivel in there, like a Fanstoys squeak type tightness, and it can, you know, it can drive you batty. So plug this foot in and make sure that you can get Stella her groove back. And then we're going to close this up and hope for the best. My advice is to start at the bottom. If you get that squared away, everything else should fall in line, and mine is not. So let's back her out. There. And then collapse that. That'll fortify, or solidify rather, not fortify. And then here, we're just gonna line that up. And here's the tank mode. I think it's pretty solid. When it was on the tracks, it didn't have these guns out. We'll talk about suns out, guns out, fellas. Am I right? Anyway, we'll talk about that when we get to the transformation of it. But I think the Tampo paint looks good. We'll talk about that during the robot mode. I will say that I think this is yellow paint. And yellow paint, if you've watched my reviews, you know I always say how hard it is to do, how much I give it a pass. This is extremely well done. It's probably the best yellow paint applied I've ever seen. Very, very impressive. The turret is ratcheted. You can get it all the way up to there. And then it's also ratcheted on the swivel. Of course, the face is hidden, so that's nice. And then the treads are rubber and they roll. This one doesn't roll, neither does the front two don't roll quite as well as the back two, but they do roll. So, yeah, I will say, I gotta look at it. I feel like it's not quite as stumpy as I remember him being, but that may be my mind playing tricks on me. Either way, I kind of like this better if that's not accurate, because it just looks a little bit more menacing in these proportions. Of course, I would have preferred more paint and stuff. We're going to talk about that, but I do think they did a really good job with this. And once again, a quick size comparison with Tiger Tracks. So, big fella. To transform this guy, it's actually a lot of fun and pretty interesting, but it's a number of like things flipping around with the clowns from out of town. My dad used to say that. You're messing around with the clowns from out of town. Fold those in, get this piece down here. I'm trying to remember it all. I just closed that back up, didn't I? Yeeks. And let's see what else we have to do. This piece has to come untapped in the front. All right. These guns, they spin around. So open up this little compartment here. Spin around. Close up. Let's see. This piece can come up. Let me adjust the camera. These pieces have to untab from the body, and then they come around to the side and collapse. All right. The legs here come down. There's a little hinge here. We'll talk about that when we get to robot mode. These come down, and then you flip these out. And flip these out. And now we have to kind of turn this around. And we're going to do the, like, what's her name? Stevie Nicks. We're going to do the best that we can. Maybe spin this out to the side, get a little bit more wiggle room. This one is ornery. Plenty of room, Mac. Close this up. And then close that. Close that. And then the face, you just, let's see how you open up this. There's the button, and it has the electronics installed in it. I didn't even realize that. So there's the face. Beautiful head sculpt, I might say. And then on the back, let's see. This, no, like that. And that's it. There is a piece here. I guess I just missed it when I was transforming him. Yeah, so like you can have this here. Oh, and that'll help him roll on the track. So I should have pointed that out. Oh well. Come down, flip back up. Look at all that in there. Tons of sculpted detail. Little translucent piece opens up. You can put the matrix in there. No worries. So there he is. Now, let's combine them. So you take your legs, you open it up like you're transforming him back, and then you're using this to slide onto this peg, and then close this around it, and that is pretty secure. Let's do the other side. Once again, we're going to open this. We're going to use this peg here. Can you see that? To slide in, and then close around. Good night. All right, let me adjust. Once again, these double hinges these are just single hinges, but they can get you in trouble. So my advice is just latch the front ones on and then clip the back ones on underneath. Otherwise, if you click the top ones on first, you'll see it's problematic. It's just problematic to get this front piece, this hinge, to clear the front of the chest. You take your arm, there's a little flap here. You want to make sure, there should be a piece here, I'm not sure what happened to that, that this slides in, this flat piece slides in all the way against there. And then close that. And then the other side, we'll do the same. Open this up. Find the flat portion. There's that other piece. Slide it in. Close that. On the back, I don't know which mode. I guess these are supposed to be out for the other mode. Doesn't matter. For the back, we're going to take our wings. Oh, man. And we're going to slide them in here. They connect. Oh, you know what else I forgot on the tank mode? I told you all those panels. There's another one here that comes around and clips in. And here that comes around and clips in. So, my apologies. So, this slides in here. And then the same on the other side. And they're very secure connections. The wings are always, I'm always a little worried about how they're going to work out. I'll get them cleaned up. We'll take a look at them. Holy Mary, Mother of Pearl. It's pretty impressive. We're going to take a look at this thing. You know, with figures this size, I like to go piece by piece as we talk about it so we can really dig in. You can see the cannon did come undone again, so you can get an idea what it looks like extended, but I'm going to collapse it again. And we're going to go piece by piece and talk about this thing. It's pretty massive, and it's pretty impressive. But not without issue. So let's go ahead and get into it. So let's talk. You know, this is the part of the review that I really enjoy. So the head, so to speak, decent sculpt work. Not a whole lot of paint. The paint is on the inside. You can lift up this canopy and see inside. What's interesting about this is that the eyes are lit up. They're not lit up now. Like, that's just them picking up these lights. There's a nice metallic blue-esque nature to the eyes that even without the lights on, and I feel like if I was you, I wouldn't believe me that the lights weren't on. So let me just prove it. Actually, no, they weren't. They weren't. They weren't. It just looked like they were. So, look, off. On. For a minute, I thought that made a massive liar out of me. You know, and like, without the lights, it's more of a difference, right? You know, so that's on. I wish the switch was a little bit more accessible, so, you know, you could just kind of turn it off and on at ease. You know who did their eyes quite well? So there, that should be pretty obvious. Was Feral Rex's eyes, how they lit up. The silver painted here, and we have like a silver around the face as well, and then the orange, I think is painted as well, and is painted extremely well. And then this closes down. The rest of this is just this gray plastic. We should talk about this gray plastic a bit. People have kind of a beef with the swirly nature of of certain plastics. This does have the swirly nature. It's not overbearing like some of the like the Toyworld throttle bots, which I don't mind either. But some people thought that swirly plastic was a little overbearing, but it's definitely here. I've always kind of felt that it adds a bit of texture to the look of the bot. So like, I'm good with it, but you may not be good with it, and that's something to consider. This back piece obviously still can be angled up or down or whatever in order to get your look you're going for. The wings are stationary, and articulation wise, you pretty much just get the swivel. Nothing up or down, which is a bummer. We'll talk about the wings a bit. We have this painted detail. It's a choice of silver and then a gunmetal silver on both, and they're just added accents throughout. That looks nice. We have the same silver applications applied here and here, the gunmetal and then the lighter silver. This red translucent here, the gunmetal silver attached to the torso, or applied to the torso rather, and then this is red plastic, this is red paint, this is gray plastic with the gunmetal silver accents, and then yellow plastic on the sides. Now, waist swivel. So this has been a point of contention, right? And the truth is that it has it, but it's complicated. So these joints on the thighs are on Y joints. We're going to put them straight forward, and you'll see you get a waist swivel to there, which I think is more than enough. I think it's anatomically correct. And then to there. Actually, this one gets you all the way around. So maybe there's a way... Yeah, I don't know what I'm bumping into there. I mean, you get that full... I mean, that's not the full range, but what more do you want? What more do you want? And then back. I've heard that if you adjust the Y nature of that you can get more, and you can. But I'm going to be honest with you, moving these does get you a bit more, but it doesn't get you any more than you would want with them standing straight forward. So I think it deserves a pass for a waist swivel. Absolutely. Moving on, let's do the arms. So we have this yellow plastic, and then let's zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're talking about here. Am I right? We have the yellow plastic, and we have this like light, like this darker orangish yellow applied here, and around this circle. Really helps bring out the textures and details and depth, I should say. And then this gunmetal silver here. Articulation-wise, now I'm holding pressure here for aesthetics. Let's see what it looks like without doing that. So it does start to bring the backpack out. From being plugged in, but that's not the biggest deal in the world, at least to me. So you get all the way out 90 degrees. Let's plug this back in. Oh, but now I've got this one plugged in and not the front one, so you can see that the problem that creates. So I'll fix that later. And then swivel all the way up. The ratchets are really strong, so they do put a good bit of stress is not the right word, but pressure on the backpack as you're manipulating it, so keep that in mind. Ratcheted bicep swivel. Gunmetal gray. 90 degree elbow, single hinge. Now for the detailings, we have all this Tampo paint that's added and looks beautiful. it gives it that more mature look that you know I'm a fan of. So we got the numbers, we have the arrows, this little bit, the gray, silver is added, gray is added here, and on the back, more tampos there, gunmetal, tampos there. This sucks. These connections here for the small. Now the good news is that most people will probably want this extended. I do not, but this holds fine. It's just the collapse mode that doesn't. So I don't know. Take that with you know, as it applies to you. And then this hand, same bit of articulation, except we have these, which open up all the way to there on ratchets at this hinge, ratchets at that hinge, ratchets at that hinge. So you only get 2 clicks here, and then it feels like just the one here, but between using all 3, you shouldn't have a problem gripping whatever Decepticon in distress you would like to. And then once again, we have the paint accents, and then I love stuff like the no step. Like I'm just a sucker for stuff like that. I loved it when what was it? Mastermade has done it. I dig it. So now we're going to talk about one of the things that I kind of have an issue with, and that is the stability. He's stable, don't get me wrong, but he does rock a little bit. You know, there is some rocking nature to him. Now, posed on a shelf, you won't have an issue at all. But just the amount of weight that's on this guy, he does rock a bit. Rocking, and rolling. We have gunmetal paint applied here and on these little squares here, which we should be used to with the design of a Mega Supreme. We'll get this arm out of the way. Leg, get you 2 clicks out, so not the greatest range. And 2 clicks forward about. Let me back that out a bit so you can see that. So, not the greatest range either. He is a big lumbering bot. The ratchets are heavy, like a wide-toothed? Teethed? I'm not sure what the right use of the word is there. But, so you can get it up to here, but there's no ratchet click there. So you're pretty much just gonna have to let it hang there. Thigh swivel is activated by this swivel here at the pelvis. And what else do we have to say about that? Same for the other side, obviously. We'll get down a little bit lower, talk about the lower legs. Knee, single jointed, ratcheted. Get you, let's see, I don't have them quite straight. 45 degrees probably. We have the Tampo paint, and then we have this silver added down there. And of course, not the prettiest sculpt there, breakaway wise. And then we just have to talk about a little bit of paint here, this orange. Gunmetal on the feet. No ankle tilt. We do have an ankle swivel, and we have a 1-click ankle rocker, which should get you in the A stance that you want to be in. But, interestingly enough, the dynamic poses are not really going to happen. You could make the argument that this isn't a dynamic pose type of character, and I wouldn't disagree with you, but it also needs to be noted that it's just not an option even if you wanted to do it. And there he is on the back. I think he cleans up extremely well. We have the gunmetal gray added to the tubing there on the back. We have some more Tampo paint coming through. We have the kind of signature yellow pieces on the back, and we have the gunmetal paint to kind of add the faux tracks at the back of the legs. I think this thing is really well decorated, so to speak.
And for a size comparison, there it is next to a baby. I think this robot stuff is officially out of control.
Size comparison wise, there he is with Warbitron's Computron, Prow, and Prime. What more could you want? And there he is with Toyworld's Devi, and I know like they just don't fit in the space very well, but the top of Toyworld's Devi pretty much comes up to Omega Supreme's chin. Recently I had a conversation saying that I thought they were about the same size, and my buddy Adam, who we argue, all day and night like cats and dogs, said that no, he thinks he was taller, and now I have to admit that I am wrong, which sucks, but I've never been so happy to admit that I was wrong. Now, I know this is a little backward than usual, but we have to talk about 2 accessories before we get out of here. One is this alternate chest. I don't know. I don't feel like I would want all that translucent. I'm not even sure if I want that. It's a decent color breakup. But if you want it, the option is there for you. And then the other one is this alternate Codpiece, which I'm guessing can just plug into here. Yeah. And and then that can come down, then you can have red all the way down. And I think I do like that. But I'm good kind of either way. It is a thoughtful option, and now you know what they both are. Final thoughts wise, sorry, I just can't do it against the backdrop. There's just not enough room to get him in any sort of pose. And as you can see, this pose works pretty well. It falls apart a little bit when you look at the foot, but outside of that, I think it works fine. So let's talk problems. He is a little wobbly in the hips. It might be the space between the teeth of the ratchets, both in the hips and at the knees, that kind of makes him wobble a little bit. There's no fear of him falling over or anything like that. Like, he's solid. It's just he's not crisp and solid, if you know what I'm saying. Like, he's not going to fall over. He's not floppy, but he is a little wobbly. There is a little bit of give in those hips. You know, it's like he's doing like the little hitch dance. Do you know what I mean? You know, the little hitch dance? You know what I'm talking about? You don't need to make pizza. They got food there. That's that sort of thing. Let's see what else I can say in a negative sense about this fella. There is that swirly plastic. That's not a negative for me, and it is very subtle, but it may be a negative for some. I know that it usually is a negative for some, and that's worth mentioning. The engineering to get the thighs out of the calves and shins and then get them oriented properly and then into place is a pain. It is a pain to deal with, and that is where the Fanstoys squeak lies on this unit, at least on this test shot or whatever it is, so be careful with that. Now, this guy doesn't have the Fanstoys finish that I love, but I think for his price, I think if I would have spent the $400 that they were initially asking, I would have been pretty bummed. But at the 250, what is it, 250, 280, somewhere in that pocket, like in that price range, with the amount of paint accents that you get on this thing, and then the difference in color breakup of different plastics and translucence, etc., it doesn't bother me. I would tell you if it did. It just doesn't bother me. And then the final two negatives that I have to point out have to do, well, it's mainly three negatives, and they had to all kind of do with tolerances and clearances. So there's a number of double hinges throughout that kind of like don't move smoothly, you might say. And you would like them to move a bit smoother, you might say. And also, those clips that are holding the cannon, you know, I've been fighting with them the whole review. That's just going to be an issue. Hopefully they can fix that, because that is the most frustrating thing about this entire piece. And then lastly, the ratchets in the shoulders are so strong that it has a tendency to pop the backpack out, at least in my experience with this. And that's all the negatives I got. Tons more positives. The sculpt is beautiful. The paint application where it is applied extremely well, including some of the sharpest yellow paint I've ever seen in my life. Like I said before, good breakups between colors and paints, and I love the color gray they chose for the biceps and stuff. I think that really was the right choice. Translucence, the electronics, as you can see, he's got everything lit up at the moment, his two arm cannons, and then the facial eyes, which don't need the lights. Like, that was my concern when I saw that they were putting lights in. I was like, if they don't have the lights glowing, it's gonna look empty. It doesn't. They found a way to circumvent that. I'm not sure if we've seen that before, but I love it. The articulation works pretty much across the board with the exception of that ankle rocker. The materials are what you would expect from Fanstoys. The plastic feels good. There's die cast in him. He has a great heft to him. And the hardware is appropriate. Some of the ratchet teeth are a little far spread. That could cause some frustration in getting imposed, but once you get imposed, you should be fine. Cleans up like a champ. It does parts form. That shouldn't be an issue. Omega Supreme is always parts formed. I'm not sure I would want an Omega Supreme that didn't. Has an incredible presence, both due to his size, sculpt, and accents. So in closing, do I recommend him? 100%. Absolutely. My biggest fear is that he's not going to fit on my shelf. I will measure him and leave that number right here so that you know how tall he is from foot to the top of his wing, so that you can prepare your shelves for his arrival. One of my favorite lines from Empire Strikes Back, by the way. I don't even know why. It's not like the hardest line or anything. It's just the way it rolls off the tongue. Alert my Star Destroyer to prepare for my arrival. Anyway, definitely a strong recommend from me. I'm hoping to get a chance to look at the DX9 Gabriel. I'm liking some of the stuff I've seen DX9 doing recently, so I'm anxious to look at that as well. This is the one that I'm buying. I'm comfortable in my purchase. I think you'll be comfortable in yours. The biggest pains are those clips on the cannon, which hopefully they can fix, but they probably won't because it looks pretty late in the game to me. And the engineering and the legs between the knee engineering basically is a pain to work through. But that's really it. Love the alt mode, love the robot mode, love the presence, love the sculpt, love the figure, and I love Hung, and I love 215 Toys. That dude has shown me more kindness than I could ever expect to receive, and that I'll ever be able to repay. even though I'm pretty sure you can come up with a few creative ways. But that's neither here nor there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.